This week on the Fifth Trooper podcast.
We can always count on Jay's brain.
Uh-oh. Don't say that too loud or you get the gas.
Welcome to the Fifth Trooper podcast.
Hello and welcome back to the Fifth Trooper podcast, where we talk Star Wars Legion. My name is Jay Shalansky, and joining me as always is Evan Bulris.
Hey, how's it going?
And Nick Allen.
Hey.
So, I think this episode we're going to continue a little bit of what we left off with last week with talking to newer players, which with some stuff that I believe is going to help, players that have been playing for a while. And then hopefully later on, we're going to have LJ Penyan, and he's going to talk about this new website that's up called Legion Tournament Circuit, and it's basically trying to help all the different communities get on the same page with the Legion circuits. And then we'll also be able to talk about how FFG is handling year 2 of the tournament circuit and what, rally points versus nationals versus, what they were doing last year versus how they rectified some of the problems for this year. So with that, I'd like to start off actually, guys. So this will be the first time that Evan and Nick have heard this. So it'll be fun to get your opinions on it as we go, as I talk about it. So, we've been talking about this stuff, telling people, our listeners, to email us. And actually, we got this great email from one of our listeners. He's actually out of the Netherlands. So he's one of the co-hosts / admins for the Dutch Legion Facebook page, the WhatsApp groups. He helps with a lot of the events in the Netherlands. And so he wanted to reach out to us and kind of give some of his views on how to get newer players into the game. So his name is Matthijs. I believe that's how you say it in Dutch, but I think English it's Matthew. And so he said he used to work for Games Workshop for 10 plus years, something like that, done tons of intros with Games Workshop. And he said he kind of came up with a formula that he thinks helps get people into the games. And he said it's 3 words. He said fun, fast, and furious. Okay. And I think we can kind of, break some of that down, but I'll talk about what, kind of some of his thoughts on it, right? So fun, of course, is, hey, it's got to be fun for newer players, right? When we're doing demo games. For fast, he thinks that doing an intro that is maybe an hour to 45 minutes to an hour tops. That's their intro, right? And then furious, he said, is making the game action packed. So that from their first roll of dice, something is getting wounded, something's happening, otherwise, because if it's boring, right, they're not going to come back.
Yep, that sounds accurate.
Yeah. So what he said, part of his thoughts were not having the newer player worry about turn 0.
Yeah.
Or even worrying about deploying models. He said, we should almost set up the board state in a way where we preset the models up. If you're a player that's been playing for a while, you would preset the opposite board up in a very pleasing way for a good outcome for your opponent, right? And he said that his thoughts too were using the starter box because everybody wants that, in his words, epic battle between Vader and Luke.
Mm-hmm.
So he thinks using the starter box is a good idea. And then maybe, adding a unit or 2 outside of the 2 commanders to kind of build up the army. And maybe not worrying as much about points being perfectly matched as much as just creating an exciting game.
No, that sounds good. I mean, the nice thing about the Games Workshop starters is they come with a lot of unit variety. So when you do a starter with a test game with that, just to show it off, it looks pretty crazy, right? You've got orbital drop guys and mutant monsters and things like that. Where Legion, you've got stormtroopers, orbital troopers. So the real draw is the heroes, right? Like Luke and Vader. That's out of the core box anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the core box. So having a good match between those I think is important, and I think he's hitting a lot of the right notes.
Yeah, and like some of the other stuff, and I think, Evan, you and I do this, right? Like I've done this where it's like, okay, don't worry about upgrade cards, right? Like cuz they're just confusing. So maybe a DLT, but like leave out some of the other stuff like grappling hooks or recon intel or like any of the things that are going to complicate it more than.
No, what's nice about Legion is you add a physical model for just the upgrade, like the unit upgrade
Yeah.
cards,
Yeah.
and so it makes it way easier to try to explain what's going on. So no, I agree. Just adding the dude, and you say the dude rolls those dice on the card, and they
Mhm.
go, "Oh, there's a physical thing on the table to represent what's going on," instead of like a theoretical grenade, right? No, that's also good.
Let's see. So he said, maybe even trying to make it so that they win the game, because people are always having more fun when they're winning, right? So if you kind of start them in a more favorable position than you are, maybe you have less activations than they do, so that they can feel that kind of high of winning the game.
That makes sense. We've been talking about doing a demo at the Syracuse Legion tournament, and I think the best way to do it, given his feedback, is if you use only the core set, so that if somebody does play this demo and they're interested in the game, they can replicate the same thing by just going and buying that starter box, that core set.
Mm.
And then having it set up in such a way that not so much that the player is in a favorable position, but that each faction is in a favorable position for what they want to do. And then you have the player who wants the demo choose which faction they want. Because you might have the rebels set up in a very favorable position against the Empire, but then the player you're demoing doesn't want to play the rebels. So like, I hate the rebels. I wanna be Darth
Mhm.
Vader. And then you play out a few rounds, and like you said, no major upgrades. You have core units with a heavy, you have like ATRT with a laser cannon with their heavy weapon, Darth Vader and Luke with some force powers, because that's very Darth Vader and Luke. They're Jedi, and they should have those powers. They should have that feel to them. But yeah, strip out all the fluff, so to say.
Yeah. Yeah, and so I think, and Evan, your 3x3 and our conversation surrounding that was very positive in the community, and everybody really liked that idea. So I think what it is combining all these ideas where you have a very cool 3x3 map with awesome terrain with cool, and I do like his idea about using Luke and Vader, but I think there's a lot of cool, like Palpatine is a big one that people want to use as well, right? So setting up two armies that are really super cool for people. And then, he even brought up the point of when you do an objective, maybe it's not even like one of the real objectives. Maybe it's just like, hey, you have to go blow up that building, and like, here's how you do it. And like come up with some other objective as well. And so, I like that. I like the 3x3. I like setting up these demo games that are about it under an hour. I think that's so I've been thinking a lot about this since our last podcast and since all our listeners have been like messaging and emailing us about this. So I thought we could take this time, the three of us here, brainstorm a little bit. I'll give you guys my ideas and maybe we can like add on to it, or you guys can counter ideas. So I think like the perfect demo, if we're gonna, I think that's what this is for, right? We're gonna try to come up with a great demo for this game to get new people in. I think it's the 3x3 map. I think it's cool terrain. I think it's basically what we just talked about from our boy from the Netherlands there, and what he had: fun, fast, furious. Make it a lot of battle, like make them close together, make the objective easy to understand, make sure that they can get into the thick of it within a few minutes. What else? What else do you guys think would be good for to think about during a demo game?
Star Wars themed terrain. That's
Yeah,
so
yeah,
huge.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds like an afterthought, but no, it's like having a couple like trees around. No, you want like a downed like X-wing, you know, it's something Star Wars that draws you out of the table. I think that's really important too, because otherwise, you're playing with Star Wars models on a non-Star Wars table, and that feels a little weird for a first impression kind of thing. Uh, but I think that's super important too.
See, for me, like I would want to take this further than just a demo. Like my idea and my thoughts are not just a demo on a 3x3, but a 3x3 format that is faster and more easily digestible by someone who's not a hardcore miniature gamer, someone who's just a really big Star Wars fan. They want to play with army men. And my initial thoughts on for this format would be you would have, and with people weighing in on this demo, I would love for people to weigh in on a 3x3 format where your army is 500 points. The unit base is all the same, but you would shave off one of the core units, so you only need 2 core units, and then everything else can stay the same, because trying to fit like 2 ATSTs in 500 points basically doesn't work with a general 2. So I think everything else can stay the same. And then from there, like how much terrain should be on the map? Should it be a quarter of the map? Should it be a third? And those are some of the things that I'm still thinking about, because I haven't actually written down. But the basics is a 500 point army, because 400 is way too small if you want to play someone like Vader or Palpatine or one of these high point commanders. And yeah, a 3x3 map.
Well, that sounds good. I mean, look at the way FFG demos it when they go to demo it. They'll have that 3x3 table. It looks like Star Wars. They have Luke and Vader. Like, remember, either you went to Nova 2 years ago when they first announced it, but they had the Endor table set up with the Endor looking units and Luke and Vader, and that drew me over. Like, I'd heard whispers of the game. I didn't really get to see it too much. But that table like really popped, and that demo was like, they moved like round 2 you're firing, right? And just to get some of that action going, and that was really cool. And later demos, they'd swap stuff out. They put like the airspeeder on, or the ATSD, because those also draw the eye to the game, and they look really cool, right? So especially for like casual fun, they're good. They're fun units, right? You get to throw a lot of dice. They look pretty cool. To me, it just needs to feel like Star Wars, because I've played so many miniatures games at this point that a game about moving dudes on a table and rolling dice to kill them doesn't really appeal to me so much anymore, unless it's got like a cool theme. And Legion really thrives on that theme, and I think if you embrace it, that's when it really starts to pop.
Yeah. So that's great. So I want to thank Matesh from the Netherlands for giving us that. The
No, that
next
was
thing
very good. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. Another thing I'd like to touch on, another listener emails from Alex Barclay. He's out of the UK. He wanted to talk about, he had some ideas about when we were discussing community building in the local game store. He actually used to be a GW regional manager in the UK. And so he was listening, I think I forgot what episode it was, but it was a few episodes ago. And I think I think I said the comment of, well, why would they put money into this? Because it's actually costing them money. And this kind of touched a nerve with me recently, because this is discussion we've been having off the podcast about how certain stores really support tournaments, other stores don't, and they just give the bare minimum, and it doesn't feel like they're putting in enough. And so what Alex out of the UK was saying was that he thinks it's stores like that who aren't really supporting are really short-sighted, because what I said was right, is that they're not actually making a ton of money, but if they can build the momentum of the community, and they can, like, as he put it, light the fuse on an active community to make sure it grows up to be healthy, that they're going to actually start making money, after this. And he was saying, like, I haven't ever seen a GW store, Games Workshop store, just because I've never been to one. We had one locally a long time ago, but it was before I was actually into the gaming, so I never got to see the store. But he said, there's a good reason that GW has these gaming tables in every single one of their stores, so that you can like touch it and you can be part of it, and Um, and he was just kind of talking about how do you keep the community healthy during those post-tournament lows, and seeing other people play the game that you like helps you build back up that interest, right? That's why they have tables already set up in these GW stores where they're just set and you can go play on them.
No, GW stores are super, super awesome because that's their bread and butter, right? They get you in, and then if you're into Games Workshop game, you're in, right? So I was reading an article today about that, how the GW is sponsoring like after school club programs for Warhammer, getting groups of like creating clubs at school to play Warhammer after school. That's awesome, right? That's nuts. They don't really benefit immediately from that, but that's a long-term game they're playing, right? So saying that, hey, you come into a store, there's a preset table. I can jump over with the latest core set, latest like the 2-player starter, and give you a great demo. And you know what, maybe you don't buy that day, but you get one of your friends in, and then you both split a starter. Like the amount of content. So okay, back up to Legion. They release something every month, right? Like they release a new thing every month. Sometimes it's just a hero, so $12 item. Sometimes it's a tank, a $60 item. To me, to not want to grow that community, to get that going, to guarantee sales for you almost, right? You give them a place to play, you give them a good attitude staff, you encourage them to play the game in the store, and they will buy from you, right? I mean, that's the general how it's supposed to work. But like,
Well,
you have
agreed.
guaranteed like you want the next thing, so you've got like every month you've got something to sell them. Or Games Workshop doesn't always release something that's relevant to you each month, but they just play that long game. It's all about the long game with them.
Well, and I think it's even bigger than that, because if you have all the accessories like paints and brushes, and like we're buying all that too as Star Wars Legion players, so there's a solid chance you're going to get people coming back for that stuff as well.
No, sure. I mean, I know I can get everything I buy at the store cheaper online. I know it. Like, I'm not silly. Amazon exists. I can get it next day. But I buy it in the store because I like supporting the store that I play the game at. Right? Like, I'll go there and I'll pick up paint or brushes. Actually, my new thing. I didn't realize different brushes made things better. I'm so bad at this.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, like, or I'll be like, oh, you know what? I guess I do need a box of Wookiees. Like, I wouldn't have bought it otherwise, right? It just doesn't make sense to me to try to invest in that community, because that's like when X-Wing 2.0 launched. I was a rally cry because I 1.0 was on the out, 2.0 was coming in, wanted to play 2.0, and I had like everybody who played 2.0, I got them to pre-order at the store for that launch. That was nuts. Like, you had stacks and stacks of stuff. Imagine that should be the same idea for like the next core set, right? They should have a ton of pre-orders if you get the community going. But if you don't, and then you put them on the shelf and like, well, we sold one because I didn't put the effort. Like, I don't know. I get really fired up about this because it's such a two-edged sword, right? You can see both parties' reasonings for why they do things, but unless one goes the extra mile, nothing happens. But it's hard to get the other one to sway over, right?
Yeah. And so I think there's definitely a challenge there to go out to stores to think about the communities. And I understand it's harder when a newer game comes out because you don't know if it's going to live or die, right? Like, games are fickle beasts sometimes. And so, but now we're in the second year of Legion and it's going very strong. So now's the time, to really think about it if you own a store. So thanks to Alex. He's actually out of New Zealand. He used to live in the UK, but he's out of New Zealand now. So thank you so much for writing into us. And for those of you listening, I really would like to start taking questions or reading listeners' thoughts on our podcast. So if you email us at the Fifth Trooper Podcast at gmail.com, or hit us up on Facebook or Twitter at the Fifth Trooper on both of those, or even on our YouTube channel, we'll try to answer, ask questions, and just maybe put in the notes that you want me to read it on the podcast, because we get a lot of questions from a lot of different people and I don't know which ones people want read. But so email us, let us know that you want to get it on the air, and we'll put it on. So we were talking about painting just a few seconds ago. And so that's another thing I wanted to kind of cover today. So for newer players or maybe players that aren't as interested into the hobby aspect or aren't maybe as good at the hobby aspect, I want to talk about a couple things. So a little while ago, I wrote a blog post, and I immediately stopped writing blog posts after this. This was back in January, just because we got so busy, and I've been meaning to pick it back up, but I thought this might be a good outlet to kind of talk about it and would get me motivated for the next post. But basically, I was talking about how do we quickly make a mini table ready in Star Wars Legion. And so, just really quick, one of the first things you got to do, of course, is to prime your model. Okay. And what I like to recommend to people, and you guys jump in wherever here, is that let's look at my model that I'm priming first, right? Like if it's a stormtrooper, I'm talking about getting it table ready as quickly as possible. Okay. If it's a stormtrooper, prime it white, man. Like don't don't prime it gray or black and then paint the white on top. That's nuts.
Yeah.
Prime it white
Had to
and
put
then
in
just
so many
paint the
layers of
black.
paint to get over
Right.
that darker color.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy talk. Like for instance, with the Royal Guards, prime it red. Like start with red and then work in the other stuff, outside of that. So for those of you, since we're talking about primers, there's basically three types that I've found that are good. There's of course the Games Workshop Citadel model paint primer. It's crazy expensive, 14 to 20 bucks a can. That's in the US. For those of you internationally, I'm sure it's even more. Or it might be cheaper for those in the UK, because since GW is a UK. But so it has, it's meant for minis, right? The Citadel brand stuff, meant for minis. It's quick to dry, has a nice spray nozzle. Um, it's one coat 90% of the time usually is enough. And so it's a really good primer, but it's like 4 times more expensive than the other options I'm about to give you, which is crazy. So the next one is the Krylon Color Master Paint and Primer. Now, for these other ones, you want to make sure that they say they bond to plastic. That's kind of a key to this. The Krylon is about $4 to $8. Generally, you can find it hobby stores, big box retailer, online, where like the GW paint, the Citadel paint, game stores online is really the only places you'll find it. Some hobby stores, but not like the big box hobby stores. So the Krylon Color Master Paint and Primer, $4 to $8 generally. It's inexpensive, readily available. It has a consistent spray, coats relatively well, and there's tons of color options. I don't necessarily like this one as much. It's a little inconsistent with the spray. The nozzle's not ideal for mini painting. And generally, I have to put a second coat on to achieve the color that I'm looking for. And the dry time's a bit longer. So even though it's a good paint and it'll do in a pinch and you can find it everywhere, it's probably on my bottom rung. Then the next one is Rust-Oleum American Accents. It's a paint and primer. You got to make sure that it's, the ones that bond to plastic. These ones you can find hardware stores, big box retail, online, like everywhere. $3 to $4. This is probably my favorite paint. It's very similar for me to the Citadel paints. Coats really well. One time is usually enough. One coat. Dry time is in the ballpark of Citadel. Tons of color choices. The only thing I found with the Rust-Oleum stuff is that some of the colors have an inconsistent spray and can get a little runny depending. But overall, Rust-Oleum is the American Accents paint and primer that bonds to plastic is my favorite. So I don't know. Did I lose you guys there? Sorry. I went deep cuts into spray paint. Any thoughts,
No,
boys?
I just don't get into painting all that much. So like I found one primer at at Lowe's, and that's what I've used before, and it worked well, but I couldn't even tell you what the name of it is.
No, I generally use
Perfect.
because I bought it a long time ago. I have a couple old cans of Games Workshop Citadel primers, and I bought some of the Army Painter ones too. Because I didn't know,
Mm,
right? I just thought you bought the primer at the store for miniatures that sold miniatures, right? I didn't really think that primer paint was
yep.
kind of a universal thing where you can go to like an art store and find primer. And so, like I was talking about earlier to you, Jay, I bought primer for red primer to paint some sea glass to look like rocks for our crate map, and it actually came out pretty good. And that was like $6, I think. So I was kind of impressed by it. But I've always used the Citadel stuff, only because I haven't known better. The problem is it always works pretty well, so I'm hesitant to change because change is scary, Jay. Change is real scary.
Yeah.
Um, but I'm open to new ideas because man, paying $20 for a can of paint, that's a video game, Jay. That's $20
Yeah.
burgers. That's everything else.
That's another unit.
That's another stationary gun. That's a lot of stuff, right? Like
Right.
it's so I'm always up to hear more ideas on that.
But yeah, and then so what and so that's kind of sprays. And then what I was getting at is like what I was saying with stormtroopers. So if you spray them white, besides the base, you're gonna base something interesting there. But the unit itself is now maybe 3 colors. So you got the white on for the armor, you got the black on for the under armor stuff and the eyes and some of the helmet details. Maybe a little bit of blue on the helmet on the sides there. They got a little section that's blue, and then a gray for the gun. And then you can choose. So here's a tip for stormtroopers. You could choose to paint in the shadow lines around the armor where all the armor kind of indents on the arms and stuff. You could paint that in with a fine brush. Counter to that, what I would recommend doing is you can get art pens from like a hobby store or an art store that have a micro tip, usually 0.05 micro tip on a marker will do, and you can draw them
It's
in.
interesting you say that because I was at Kappa Cup, 3 years ago, and there's a guy who did all the painting on X-wings with Sharpies, and I've got a really good
Yeah.
cloaking Mist Hunter that he did, and I remember he was doing something. You'd give him like the ship, an unpainted model, and he'd give you the painted one for like a discount. And I had bought a couple because I was really impressed. Like this guy did some good work, and then I thought, wait a minute, I could do this. I never did.
Yeah.
But it's totally something that's very doable. And also if you have no time like myself to do shading, were you going to go into washes? Okay,
Yeah, I
I'll leave
will.
you for
Yep.
that.
No, we'll get into that in a second. I like to stick on this marker a bit just
No,
for
it's
a
good.
little, especially with like the stormtroopers, or like if you want to do camo on your rebels, just do like a fine tip marker. No one can tell if you do it the right way. If you get the right marker, you'll have to test some markers out, right? You may not get the perfect marker at first, but a lot of the art markers that are meant for like multimedia projects and stuff that you can get at a hobby store, like an art store like Michael's or Hobby Lobby or Joanne Fabrics, you can get these markers that will draw on top of the paint, and you can do some really nice stuff. So like even if you wanted to do like on like my snipers, I have like a skull on his arm, on his shoulder plate, right? Like I thought that was a neat little flair. Like you could do that with a marker, and it's much easier to manage
No, for
than
real.
paint,
Some people are
and
just they pick
quicker.
up a paintbrush and they
Yeah.
can do amazing things. I am not one of those guys. But gosh darn it if I
Yeah.
don't try.
Yeah, and then so going with that, Evan. So I take let's take the guard for example, the Royal Guard. So really, I did this in my blog post, so you could check out fifthtrooper.com. But basically, I broke the guard down into four. They're basically 4 colors. They're red, black, gray, and purple. That's it. So I spray painted them red. I painted the gloves and boots black. The weapon is gray. The pants and shirt are purple, like a reddish purple. And then the cloak that they're wearing, I used a wash or a shade. And basically what what those are in essence, for those of you that don't know, it's just watered down paint. And when it's watered down, it basically will hug cracks and crevices, and it'll just kind of pool in those cracks and crevices. And so what you do is you could take your brush and just sloppy Joe go all over the model, and it'll settle, and you'll get a little bit of a darker tint across the high areas, but then the real dark shade will settle into the low areas of the cracks or the crevices. And then you can go back over and just do some highlight, or like even just take a paper towel and just wipe off the high areas if you wanted. Or the other way you could do it is if you get a fine tip brush, you can just kind of meticulously put it into the cracks and crevices too. And just doing that alone without any highlight work on top of it will make your model look
Oh
100
yeah, it's like
times
skill
better.
in a can, right? That's the I mean, Army Painter even
Yeah.
makes the quick dip where you just take it by his legs and dip him in like Achilles, you
Yep.
know, and pull him out, and they look pretty good. Like okay, again,
Yeah.
Evan tries. We'll make a new segment at some point. Evan tried this. So I'm gonna save my horrific painting stories for another day, but I will say that the quick dips work pretty good. Dip them in, shake them off, go out, do this outside, and honestly, like it's pretty okay, man. Like it goes from a model that looks
Yeah.
really blasé to like kind of detailed, and the Army Painter even they even have this like 1, 2, 3 step thing where it's like 1, prime it, 2, put your like whatever colors you want wear, and then 3, dip it and you're good for general like table stuff. And man, like you really have to try it yourself, because I didn't think I could paint anything. But I painted my Rebel Troopers for Adepticon, and I was really impressed how they came out and how like what my level of skill could get me when I thought I couldn't do anything, right? So I think that's like shade, especially if you're worried it kind of looks boring, like
Mhm.
that stuff can really make it pop without a whole lot of like effort required.
Yeah, and then if you want to take it up another notch, what I would say is the other option too. So now you've got your main colors, you've done a shade, you let it all dry. Well, now you can there's a technique called dry brushing. So basically, the easiest way to do this is you get a little bit of paint on your brush, little bit. And what I do is, so I'm crazy. I use my hands as like my palette. So I'll like dry brush my finger until the paint is just kind of painting my finger. And then you just go to your model and you just do what you do this like quick, like whisking across just the top of the model with a little bit of paint. And what it does is it'll raise up all those edges. So now you're doing quick highlights on your model. And I tell you, they look 100 times better. And it's quick, and you can turn models around so fast.
That was actually
this
the
way.
big stepping stone for me. Was like I've committed to painting. I bought some paints I thought look cool. I'm like, yeah, let's do it. And I look at this box of like primed miniatures just staring back at me, and there's 32 of them. And I'm thinking, good lord. I was like, what? I painted like 3. I remember I messaged you the first day I actually painted 3 minis. I'm like, I need a nap. Like I need to lay down and really just think about a lot of stuff, because that took a lot out of me. But after the more you do it, even like my super amateur first time thing, I just decided to do like I would do 4 a night, or even like 2 a night, depending on how tired I was. And as long as you give yourself time, man, that's fine. Like doing 2 and just setting a goal for something small makes that inevitable like 34 man unit not feel so bad to paint. And but that was the big thing, man. So there's a lot of troopers in this game, and you will get very tired of painting a color, especially stormtroopers. If you want to just do them all the white with black, just do them increments, man. They don't have to all be done at the same time.
Well, and back to what I was saying, like look at pictures and try to break it down to its minimal colors. Like most of the models can be broken down to 4 colors. Okay. So like if I look at rebels, right, like rebel troopers, it's a flesh tone. It's a green for the jacket, a tan/brown for the shirt, green, that same green that you used on the jacket, you can use on the pants, and then like a black for the shoes. And you're done. And the helmet can be the same green and tan. and now you're done. You just move on with your life. And it's painted, and I think the other thing when newer people start to paint, they want their things to be so good. Like they want them to be like top of the line, you know what I mean? And it's just not going to happen your first time out. So your better bet is to simplify and try to figure out, what's my simplest colors, the bare minimum of colors I could put on this trooper to make him look decent.
That's what I did. I went with a 3-color scheme, and ended up coming out real good. With a couple like exceptions here or there, but
Yep.
yeah, I just went like green coat, khaki pants, white shirt, and then black and gray were applicable for weapons, and they came out fine.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. Yeah, there's a little primer on priming and painting and getting your minis table ready. I'm trying to think. Oh, there was another question. Another listener, his name is Gunner. He was out on the Facebook and he wanted to know, how much terrain do you need for a full table? And so I wanted to talk about this too. We were talking about terrain with Dave last episode. And this is always a question that always pops up, not just for newer players, but for us seasoned players as well. So I have two answers to that. Technically, based on the rules, a quarter of the table should be terrain. And so how you do that is basically the easiest way is to measure out a quarter of your table, one quadrant, and fill it with terrain. That's the quickest and best way to fill your table up with terrain. The more complex answer is there's a debate or struggle in the community right now because, quite frankly, if you are a casual player, which most of you are, I'm betting, fill your table up with as much terrain as you want. Whatever looks good, man. Like, whatever makes you happy, that's how much terrain you should have on your table. Make sure there's enough room for minis to move around. Make sure there's places for them to hide. But if you're having fun and you want to have a fun game, terrain makes games fun, right? So fill it up as much as you want. Like we just did a recent, Nick and I just played a quick game the other day. We were testing out some of the equipment and doing a live stream. And, I have a whole Jeddah City center now, which is ridiculous terrain. Like I don't know how well it would work in a tournament scenario, but it was fun as
No, it
hell to
was a lot of
play
fun.
on. I don't know
think
how
I
you
got
feel,
boned a
Nick,
little
but
bit
that's how I felt.
by the way we chose our setups and everything, but it very much played like the theme of Jeddah City did. Like as the Rebel player, like with my strategy and the way Rebels were, it very much felt like I was like trying to come in from the sides the way it happened in the movie, where I just pop out and then start trying to shoot you as you come up the alleyway. And it very much felt like that.
So, and I would say that was a good mix. Like, so I specifically put in the tank and the Death Troopers and Krennic because we were playing on that table, And so I thought that would just be thematic and fun to have them in there. And you're right. It felt very much like the movie. You were coming in from the sides and hiding behind stuff and trying to pop out and shoot. And I was basically just coming right up the middle with the tank and all my guys going, okay. And so the answer to how much do I need for a full table, as much as you want to have fun, or
But
if you're trying to
if
get
you're playing
prepped
with
for
Rebels, you
tournaments,
do
it's a
need to have
quarter of
some,
the table.
because Rebels do real bad if you do not have terrain and they do not have cover.
Yeah. Yeah, they're going to need, you do need line of sight blocking and you do need heavy terrain. Like those are two things you're going to need. Those are basics that you would need for sure. Yeah, so so that was that's terrain and stuff. Let's see. The next thing I kind of want to talk about real quick is the Northeast Open. So just as a reminder, we're if you're listening to this for the first time or if you forgot already, we're putting on a Legion event. It is going to be a blast. It's going to be we're looking to get 64 players. It's going to be 2-day tournament setting. We're going to have prize support. We're going to have cool tables. We're going to have cool people. Like a lot of the people from the community are going to be there. So the three of us will be there. The Scoundrels are going to be there. Kevin Valier from Imperial Discipline blog is going to be there. Some of the Critical X podcast guys are going to be there. I think I saw that maybe some of the Stabcast guys may try to make it up too. So a lot of community members that you've seen on Facebook or on, and actually there's a bunch of Discord guys that are going to be there. So it's going to be another who's who of Legion events. It's going to be incredible. It's going to be a ton of fun. We don't really have anything yet on whether FFG is going to support it. I'm working on it. We haven't heard anything back from them, but I can tell you right now, don't let that stop you, because the way rally points are set up now, you should be able to hit a rally point in your area somewhere. And this is going to be for fun. And I promise you that the prize support will be worth coming. Whether or not it's a national or a rally point, I will make it worth your while for showing up. Not to mention the con and everything else that's going on, but the tournament will absolutely be worth your while. Now, a couple of people have asked us, why did we split it into 2 days? So right now, the thought is it's going to be 3 rounds a day for 2 days for a 6-round tournament. You'll have a true winner. But the thought is so that you can be done by 5, so that we can all hang out afterwards. Because my biggest thing at the tournaments we've been, LVO, Adepticon, even PAX, like, I didn't have enough time to hang out with people. Like, I met all these great people or reconnected with great people from the community. And it's like, man, I'd love to go get dinner with you or go get a drink with you right now, but it's friggin' 10 o'clock at night. And I got to either fly out tomorrow or we got another event tomorrow. Like, and so it's always impossible to like hang out with people without sacrificing your play for the next day or whatever. Right. And so with the 3 rounds, you won't be exhausted. We'll be done by 5 both days, and you'll be able to go have fun afterwards, hopefully with us.
Yeah, man. That always stinks about the big cons. That's why I like Nova, because that's kind of the whole event, but also it runs the same problem where, man, some days you just like you get out at like 9 or 8 even, and that doesn't seem that late, but when you've been standing on your feet for 12 hours, it sure does. Sure does feel like a long day.
Yeah.
And so no, man, that's awesome. That's a really great. I think that's the correct move. Plus you're gonna just enjoy the rest of your day, right? Like you get to play some Legion and you get to play just enough right where it gets kind of tiring, and you get to go have dinner at a reasonable hour or see a movie or something, right?
Well, and I would argue that the way we got it set up, it's not even, it's like a work day, right? It's going to be about 7-8 hours, and then you'll be done. And
yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like that's like perfect, right? That's just enough to near the end of that 3rd game, when you're like, all right, man, like, let's do this. Normally, like at the 4th game, I'm just like, I don't care, right? I'm putting stuff down. I'm like, all right, let's see how this goes.
Yeah.
But 3 games is like just enough for me to still have that power to get through, and then be like, all right, time to relax.
Yeah. So check out thefifthtrooper.com. You'll see a link at the top, Northeast Open. Click on that and register, man. Register. It's going to be great. So come on out to that. The other thing I want to touch on real quick before we get to LJ is we also have a giveaway. Jay, that's me. I'm talking in the 3rd person now because it's ridiculous what I did. So when we went to Adepticon, they released the tank and land speeder. I made everybody in our party buy one for me. And then I forgot that I had pre-ordered 2 of each from our local store. So I have a ton of tanks and land speeders. So we have a giveaway right now on our website, fifthtrooper.com. If you see at the top next to Northeast Open, you'll see giveaway. We're going to give away a tank and a land speeder. So 2 lucky winners will be receiving a tank or a land speeder. We're going to do it at random. And so go up there, enter the giveaway. We got a couple different ways, like visit, like us on Facebook, subscribe on YouTube, and then follow us on Twitter. and you'll get points that count towards I don't know, the randomness of the program or something. But
Sure.
really what it is for you to get subscribe and like our pages so that we get more people, so that we can propagate our information out better to you, and then maybe someday monetize on YouTube, which would be really nice for us, so that we can start generating an income base, so that we can start doing better stuff for you guys in addition to our store. So go check that out. And as always, check out our shop. When you guys are listening to this, it'll be Wednesday. The mats are due in Thursday. I will have them in my possession on, May 2nd, Thursday, May 2nd. So if you ordered a mat, it'll be coming out to you by next week. You'll have it in your hands next week.
Perfect.
So that's super cool. And if you haven't ordered a mat, you better get on it, man, and order a mat, because they're awesome, if I don't say so myself.
No, they look pretty awesome. I think the mud one being my favorite.
Yeah. Mimbam is good. Crate is good too, but Mimbam is definitely. You know what I think it is? I think Mimbam kind of hits with everybody, as even myself, because as much as everybody kind of put down Solo, after I've been watching it a bunch of times, that's a really good movie, and that whole battle scene on Mimbam was just incredible. And so I think that really resonates as like an actual battle that we got to see, like a real battle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that kind of resonates where Legion is concerned.
And maybe FFG will make anything from the movie.
Yeah, maybe.
So we could have anything from it. That'd be fantastic too.
And then the other cool thing is I just shared on our Facebook page. So Dave from Imperial Terrain, who joined us last week, they're actually working on Mimbam Terrain. So they've got some command tent modules that they're working on, which is the forward outpost. If you watch Clone Wars or Solo, they go to Mimbam a couple times. There's these tents. That's where the Republic and then the Imperials are actually based out of when they're on Mimbam. So it's called Forward Outpost. And so Imperial Terrain, they are going to be doing some 3D printed terrain that goes with this mat. So they're working on it now. Should be for sale soon. They're really close to their final release. I shared it on our Facebook page if you want to check it out.
Nice.
But all right, well let's get LJ on and start talking to him. All right, well joining us now is the one, the only LJ Pena. What's up, my man?
Hey guys, good to be on again. Good to talk. Just kind of, living life and doing my
Good
thing.
to have you here.
Yeah, and for those of our listeners who don't know, if you're new to the 5th Trooper, if you're new to Legion, LJ's the man, the myth, the legend behind some of our greatest TO'd events so far in Season 1, Las Vegas Open and Adepticon. I was at both events. I loved both. I think you guys absolutely set the template for all TO'd events moving forward. And, that's part of why we're having you on today. And I'm definitely borrowing a bunch of stealing is more likely the word, stealing a bunch of ideas from you for our Northeast Open event we're going to have. But for those of you who don't know, everything I've learned about TO and everything moving forward is thanks to this man. So thank you.
My pleasure.
And then also, if you're on the Discord channel, LJ's Talk Polite on the Discord channel as well. And he does TOing on Tabletop Simulator and Discord as well. So you're just the TO of all TOs, right?
Yeah, it's like Pokemon, man. You got to catch them all.
Absolutely. And so speaking of which, LJ came up with this brilliant idea called the Legion Tournament Circuit. Why don't you go ahead and talk a little bit about the idea, why you formed it and what it is?
Sure. So, you kind of actually gave a good reason why, because there are so many tournaments that are going to happen in this second year of organized play. And unlike my previous statement, I cannot catch them all, and I cannot be there to help everybody out with their tournaments. And you're going to have this issue cropping up by the time you get to Worlds in year 2, where there's going to be tournaments that have happened all over the country, and your tournaments locally might be different than my tournaments locally, yet we still got a spot to the same world championship. And so I really wanted to make sure that we kind of took a standardized approach to running tournaments over this second year of organized play. The consistency between LVO and Adepticon was awesome, and I think very much appreciated by the people who went to both, knowing that you get the same experience no matter where you went. And so before Adepticon, I kind of started to think about, well, maybe we should have a tournament resource where people can go and they can see guides that will tell them, hey, here's some recommended formats for, your 16-person event, your 32-person event, your 64-person event. And here's a breakdown of like how to place terrain properly and, some different styles of placing terrain and what you're going to get out of each one. And we kind of started to create articles, and Brendan especially, who helped me with LVO and who was the one who on the day was running Adepticon, he had actually put a lot of this stuff aside in a Google Drive, and I was like, you know what, I think the community will benefit from this resource. So what we did was we created a website with the goal of standardizing approach to running Star Wars Legion tournaments and events to try to maintain a professional standard of organized play events throughout this year. And so you've got a bunch of free resources that can help you enhance your events and successfully run tournaments, and specifically aimed at the Rally Point qualifiers that happen this year, of which there are, I think, 77 in the United States. So that's a lot of different tournaments.
Yeah, and I would say, so it's not, like you said, it's for the whole community. So it's not only for tournament organizers who want to learn, all of LJ's tricks, but it's also for the community who are going out to play. Like, maybe you don't know where the next rally point is. Maybe you want to understand what you can expect at a tournament. Like, this is a great resource for all of that. As well as, I believe you put up a community locator, and or you will at one point have a community locator up there. A lot of information about guys like us on the podcasts and blogs and stuff. So there's just a ton of great resources on this outside of just TOing an event.
Yeah, I definitely want to try to gather as much as I can from across the spectrum. That's the thing. The website was brought together under the guise of Competitive Legion, but that's definitely not where the bill stops. I had somebody contact me yesterday after I started sharing the website with people that was like, yeah, we're going to try to run our first Legion demo night, and the terrain guide was really helpful. And it's like there's definitely more people that can benefit from the system, and like you had just alluded to, the community section in particular is something that we're already working on growing. At the moment, if you hover over the community button, you can actually see a link to a bunch of different content producers. So there's places to find, general discussion, blogs, list building apps, painting guides, competitive leagues, podcasts, Twitch and YouTube channels, to places to buy terrain. And that's a page that was designed with like, hey, I'm here for Clone Wars and I want to get more into this game. Where do I go next? And I see that question every day in the
Yeah,
Facebook group.
yeah.
Every single day I see somebody that says like, "Hey, I want to learn about more about this thing or access this type of media. Can you suggest it?" And now you can just show them this page and it will give them a bunch of different stuff to pick from. And then the more exciting page actually to me is going to be the community locator that you mentioned. At the moment, we don't have that up on the website, but basically, what it'll look like when it's done is you'll be able to fill out a form for your whatever your local group is, and it'll say like, "Hey, this is the store's location. This is its Facebook group. This is the Legion nights we play on." And then you'll be able to pull up a map of all those submitted events in our database. And so, like, let's say I'm headed to Washington, I can look at the map and say, "Hey, this is the Legion group for this store," and maybe I can catch a game with them while I'm passing through, Seattle or something like that. And that's
Yeah,
another one that I get. Like, I feel like I get that one almost every day on the Discord. Like, hey, we need a community finder. And I'm like, I don't want to add 50 more channels to the Discord, guys. And it's
right,
like,
right.
cool. Now I can just send them to the community locator, and eventually you'll be able to pull up a map and you can look at the closest stores to you and see when their Legion nights are.
Well, and I would say the fact of the matter is that not everybody that well, we know this by the numbers, right? Not everybody that plays Legion or is on the Facebook group is a Discord member or even has, even wants to get on Discord. So having a resource outside of Discord or outside of our private channels that the community has, I think is going to really help overall. And how many times, like our buddy Houston, he's always posting like on the on the Facebook page, hey, I'm gonna be in California, or hey, I'm gonna be in Virginia, like who's playing, where do you guys play? And he's because he travels for work, so he's always trying to catch a game, so it's really nice for we can just be like, hey, go up there. That's where you can see where people are playing.
Yeah, that's the hope, is that I'll, kind of have like a comprehensive resource that, if you're setting up the board for the first time, if you're running a rally point, if you're just trying to find a community or access the game, it'll be an all-in-one resource that will kind of encompass a lot of that. And there's other lofty goals we'd like to get to. We'd like to add more content and those dynamic maps that we were talking about. Right now, it's all very simple database form, but I know the dynamic maps are going to be really cool.
Yeah.
The back to home button doesn't work. You got to fix little stuff like that.
I noticed that today too.
Yeah. Hey, if you're on the website and back to home doesn't work, if you press the little Legion Tournament Circuit icon that's usually on the left side of each screen, it'll take you back to the home page.
Yeah.
But no, we're really excited about a lot of the features that are coming soon. The hopefully the form to submit your community should be up by the end of the week, and then in the near future, under the terrain article, I think we're also going to go ahead here pretty soon, and we're going to implement table pictures by biome, because that's another one I get a lot. People are like, I really want to make a cool city board. Or like,
Yeah.
I've never seen this biome before. Somebody give me some tips. And so with the way that the website is built, it's actually really easy to create galleries. And so we're going to try to create galleries of different terrain done at LVO and Adepticon, or stuff that people have sent in to us, and give you that ability to look through those and get some ideas. Or straight up steal. It's a free resource. I don't care.
Yeah, and actually, just to tie this in with the earlier part of our podcast, so we are actually answering some listener questions, and one of the questions was, how much train do I use? Where do I put it? And so there's actually, under train guidelines on this website, there's a whole section about setup, quantity, placement, general tips, determining cover. All that stuff is common practices. It's all up there. So that'll give you kind of, I think, that's a great page to get the sense, I think, and the soul of what this website is going to be, is that page, like resources like that.
Right. And let's say you're running your, Northeast Open tournament, and you want to have those little nifty trade outlines that we put on the LVO and the Adepticon tables. Well, guess what? It's there on the website. There's a button that says it's here. Click it, and you can make a copy of your own document and download it and use it at your local tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, and so for those of you that want to go check this out, it's legiontournamentcircuit.com. And give it a view, and I'm sure there's a contact us email on there. So if there's any ideas that you have or thoughts or whatever, I'm sure the team would love to hear from you about that. So.
We actually did put a contact email on there, and it's super easy to remember because it's legiontournamentcircuit@gmail.com.
Yep.
And it's not just myself that maintains that. One of the other features of the website that I'm going to plug here real quick is that under the Contact Us page, there's actually a small crew of people that represent different parts of the United States, and currently we have a representative for the United Kingdom. So if you email us at the contact and you're like, hey, I need further help, I'm still confused, then we've actually got people designated as regional leads that, while they might not be able to travel to your store and show you how to do things, you can at least get paired up with a specialist that can help guide you through the process if you would know nothing about Legion and you're trying to run like a rally point or something like that.
Yep. And they're all super cool dudes, every single one of them. So definitely reach out.
Can confirm.
I don't know. They're all pretty cool. I don't know about that Ryan Sawaski guy. He's kind of weird, but apart from that, they're pretty great.
Yeah, you know what? Let's start a
Fair.
podcast war. No, get that guy out of here.
Yes, podcast war. I've been trying to incite one for like a week. Did you see that picture I put up with the
Yeah, I
Crystal X
did.
thing?
Yeah, I did.
Podcast fight.
Some men just like to watch
Yeah,
Yeah,
someone
I-
burn.
one of the main events at Worlds 2019 is going to be the Anchorman style podcast fight. Did you guys hear?
Yep. Yeah, I called the
Oh,
Trident.
what?
So just for anybody that's out there.
Oh, dang. I'll take the hand grenade.
Evan would definitely be like, "Where'd you get a hand grenade?"
But actually, you know what? Speaking of Worlds, look at us being professional with segues. Talk to us about Worlds, LJ. So you're one of 8 going, right?
I am.
How's that feel? Let's start. Forget all the logistics and all that bull crap. How's that feel personally to be one of 8 people in, I'm putting Worlds in air quotes, but Worlds to go? Like, what's that feel like, man?
I mean, I definitely can't believe it still. I'm still very surprised by the fact that I was able to get into that top 8 just because, my goal at Last Chance qualifier was just to nab a spot. And I mean, I nabbed the last spot available. And so, I was like, cool, I feel vindicated. I can play this game okay. I made it to high command. Like that was the goal. And I'll be honest, it's very stressful because as you guys know, I've got a lot of projects going on and
Yeah.
having that extra load on my mind is an extra load on the brain, but looking at the other people that made it, I'm so excited to spend another day playing Legion with them because I know every single other person that's going. It's a great group of guys. I get to go hang out at FFG headquarters and bug Luke and Alex some more, which I do on like a semi-weekly basis, it seems. And I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to play at that high level one more time because there's really not another experience for me like it. It's a very unique feeling. It's a level of focus that I don't get in a lot of other things I do in my life, and so even though it's a bit stressful to have to continue to grind that axe right up until June 21st, I think it is, I'm just excited to go. It'll be a great time.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be a pretty incredible thing. Like, we don't know a ton of information about it as of now, but it sounds like some of the rumors we've heard that they're going to be putting some thought into it at the very least.
Yeah, I know the big question that the 8 have is what's the terrain going to look like because we don't have a lot of details there, of course, and we want to make sure that it's a fair event from that standpoint. But
Yeah.
I had just recently learned from Jimmy Lee, who's one of the coordinators, that he has a special type of event that he wants to run for Worlds. So not your standard 3-round Swiss. It's going to be a 2-day event, the actual tournament itself. So I don't quite know what that means, if we're going to do like a round robin or if he's got something else kind of in mind. But it sounds like they are going to try to do something a little different, a little more unique for us, and that's pretty sweet. And we get to do like a schwanky tour around the headquarters the day before and all that. So that part's going to be pretty sweet.
Yeah, well, congratulations on making it, man. Really, really happy for you. And, there's been a bunch of us behind your back talking about how for the longest time we thought you were sneaky good and that you were going to be a big surprise at high command, and you proved us right. So good job.
Well, you're welcome.
Yeah, man, that's awesome.
I guess that you remember that game we played where your dice just decided they weren't going to roll anymore.
Yeah.
I guess it validates something like that, right?
Yeah, sure does.
Nick and I played at a local thing a couple weekends ago, and this guy David, who was at LVO, who we love, he's awesome. He beat me with a triple Royal Guard list, and
man.
he was like, "So is this like Highlander style, and I get your Worlds invite now? Is that how this works?"
That's funny. Yeah, I mean that's this game though, right? Like you can all the planning and all the reps and everything in the world, but if your dice don't show up one day, that can be curtains for you sometimes. But Yeah, man, congratulations, and go kick some ass.
I will do my best. And I'm sure that in the final game, I will lose to Kingsley on key positions because that's just how life works.
Yeah, you should totally wear a Fifth Trooper shirt the whole time too. So let's
I
do that.
will I will definitely consider wearing a Fifth Trooper shirt the entire time.
What kind of pay are we talking? Like, what do you need?
Hey, I've been repping your dice bag since LVO. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
It's led me to many glorious victories.
nice, perfect. So now that we've talked about Worlds, let's talk about season 2 a little bit. And they've kind of changed the OP structure for season 2 of Legion, and I think you probably know it better than any of us. So do you want to kind of explain the new 2019-2020 season?
Sure. I'll be honest, I was kind of super confused too until like a month ago. And I was able to sit down with Jimmy and be like, all right, Jimmy, this is what you guys said at this day. This is what you guys said recently. They don't add up. We're all confused. I'm supposed to know what's going on and I don't. And this is the exact order I was saying things in, by the way. Like, what is the deal next year? Because we just have no idea what's going on. And like,
Yeah.
I feel for the guy. I feel for him like a lot because they've had a huge restructure and organized play. And like a lot of like the Legion, like OP people that like we know that like to go to the tournaments and stuff, we're not their biggest concern.
Right.
They're super surprised that LVO and Adepticon were such large events, and they're thrilled. But they've got so much other stuff going on top of this restructure that it's like, okay, I think I understand why it's taking so long to get information. And that also is one of the things that pushed me towards doing this LTC website. So now that I've kind of been able to gather my troops, as it were, I definitely think I understand the format a lot better. And actually, to bring it back to the website, that is one of the tabs on the website. If you go to it and you look under the qualifier tab, one of the menu drop downs is year 2 structure. So here's what year 2 looks like. And it's already started for those of you that haven't heard about the recent rally points that have happened. I think one in the Pacific Northwest and one basically Worlds is supposed to be much larger next year. We're talking like 64 to 128 people in the World Tournament. Each rally point gives you an automatic invite to Worlds. No high command, no other tournament you got to go to. You just go straight from your local to their World Championship, wherever that may be.
Mm.
Then, if you play in a national or a grand champion, which is like Nova and LVO, those give you up to 4 spots to give away. So 1 spot per rally point, up to 4 spots per nationals/grand championship. I know for Nova, and I believe it's going to work this way for the for LVO as well. The first and second place contestants also get their hotel and or flight paid for. I know it's at least the flight. So there are some perks there if you do travel to a convention tournament and take a top spot at that. Then last but not least is your Continental Championship. Now those, as they're called, are only going to be 1 per continent. And so far, I haven't heard of any Continentals actually being announced. But Continentals are going to give you, I think it's 8 spots total that they get to give away to Worlds. And so then you'll gather at wherever the World's location ends up being. I'm hoping Adepticon, but I think we'll see because I know they do a lot of their World tournaments at Adepticon. And then all 64 to 128 players are going to meet at Adepticon and probably play, I would assume, a 2-day tournament. If let's shoot for that max number, let's say it's 128. I think you would need to do 4 rounds the first day, and after 4 rounds, that would get you a top 8. So then the second day you play a top 8 3-round Swiss, and then there'll be one undefeated winner, and that person would be the Legion champion for the 2019-2020 season.
Nice.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that makes more sense, and it gives everyone more opportunity to be involved, right? Like, so Well, I know, I think it's the 18th of May. We got a rally point like an hour away from here. You know what I mean? So it's like easier to make it to that. I don't have to go to Nova, even though I will. But if you can't afford or make it out to Nova or one of the bigger shows, you just go to somewhere a couple hours away, you drive, you play, and if you win, you get an invite. I think that's great.
Yeah, honestly, I think this system is the best of many worlds for a lot of different reasons. Now that I've been to a couple of the convention tournaments, I mean, they're just so great. That it's such a large showing of why this community is awesome. And convention tournaments usually have other stuff that it's like it's cool to be there because you get to see X, Y, and Z. But
Yep.
I definitely feel for the international crowd with this system because, like, if you're in the UK, let's say, and you got to go to LVO, then fly back to Adepticon like this year's was, and then maybe they'd fly you out to FFG headquarters, like, on your personal life and on your wallet. That's a big load you got to carry. And so now you just have to win something in your country and then fly to we assume fly to the United States once, and that's a lot less to ask on a person than the previous system. So, like, again, I think the previous system, the one that we had, was designed for a very small number of people playing this game, and we
Yep.
surpassed those expectations hugely. And now that we're getting into like a serious organized play team, which is what this team is, we're going to see the results of that. That's just how I feel about it.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be great, and I'm very excited for the new structure, and it's just going to get better the more they realize how many people are into Legion and how many people are passionate about the competitive side of it, right? And it's just only going to get better from here.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, well, LG, why don't you talk to us about, because right now, actually, Invader League is going on, which for those of you who don't know, Invader League is a tabletop simulator, basically tournament through the Discord channel and on Tabletop Simulator. And LJ, of course, TOs that as well. So what's going on with that, LJ? What's going on?
What's going on? Oh man, I really should avoid doing that while recording.
No, I
Um,
love it. We're keeping that in.
oh great. No, the league is going well. We ended up surpassing what would be my wildest dreams as far as player count. We were originally looking at, I think it was 70 last season, that boiled down to around 60 after drops, and we started this season with 96 players, and so 96 players gives us, I think it's something like 240 games for the round robin stage. And I actually had to add another week onto the schedule because I increased the group size from 5 to 6. So we are on schedule to finish this tournament on time, which is, I think, May 5th is the last day to get your games in, if I remember correctly. So we are slowly getting to this. We're in this final week right now. The games have been going very well. We've seen some stellar performances from Krennic, Death Troopers, Sabine, as well as your Imperial Rebel standbys are all doing fine. And I really like where this tournament is at right now because I think it gives people like myself a good indication of what the meta is going to look like for Worlds and at some of these rally points that are coming up as these new units hit the table, and gives us a good amount of time to see some of the problems too and identify, hey, this is a rule gap that we might want to officially address and do stuff like that too. So Invader is a great vetting process. It's awesome to see 96 people trying to work towards the same goal, which is getting into the single eliminations. We actually opened up a brand new competition this year that we haven't done before. And so what we're going to do, very similar to March Madness, is if you go if you're on the Discord, this is in the Invader League announcement section, but you can actually fill out a bracket for the single elimination. And now the brackets won't be set until May 6th. So you have plenty of time to get your bracket in and then change it as people get in the single elimination. But the way this works is through the website Challenge, you submit a bracket, and whoever has the best, like the most correct number of picks and the best overall score by the end of it is going to get a $75 Miniature Market gift card. And you don't have to play in the Invader League or even be a member of the Discord to actually participate. You just need to fill out a bracket correctly and you're on your way. And so we've got prizes for first, second, and third place. I just said first, but second is going to be a Bosk or Sabine miniature. Third is going to be a Bosk or Sabine miniature that you'll get, of course, after they release. And I was really lucky to continue to grow this tournament, which since the game came out has been the largest Legion event of Star Wars Legion. At like every time it's happened, it's pushed the envelope even more, and I couldn't be more excited about that.
Yeah, and I would say for those of you who are interested, who aren't in the know on this, there you can email us or message us. A couple people have asking, about the Discord and this quote unquote Discord channel we keep talking about, and we'll send you the link, and you can check it out there. There's also plenty of streams out there. I know LJ, you run one. David from the Notorious Scoundrels run one. So you could catch a lot of these games with commentary. So you could go check it out. And dude, it's great. And LJ's absolutely right. So they release a ton of in the TTS version of Legion, all the future releases are generally in there. So you can see how Sabine or Bosk work before they're actually released, and you go pay money for them. And I think it's just a really good resource in that regard as well, to see how these units function and how some of these top level players are playing them. Because for those of you out there, I don't know how many, but a good chunk of the top 8 who are in Worlds and a lot of high command are actually in Invader League as well.
Hey LJ, what's a hot take on Sabine and Bosk? Just thought off the top of your head about each one.
Bosk's ability to push crits through is just mental.
All right, that's good. Excellent.
I am super excited to use him on the table. I don't know Double Bounty is a World's winning list, but it's gonna push the meme level up to 11. That's for sure.
All right, okay, I like that. I can deal with that.
So for those, just
Sabine,
really quick, I'm sorry. So for any of our listeners that don't know, Double Bounty is
Bosk and Boba.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, Double Bounty has been kind of a popular archetype that's come up through the tournament, and it's fun because you've got the potential of earning some extra VPs on the table, and now you don't have to overcommit one unit to pick up that VP. So it's a fun one to play, and I'm kind of a personal fan of it. I'm excited to put it on a real table eventually. Sabine, on the other hand, I think we're going to see a lot of her. I think Rebel players are learning how a lot of us felt rolling Boba's dice. 50% of the time you feel like a god. The other 50% of the time you want to throw your dice away.
Oh, sure. Yep.
Because that they will blank out. It will happen, and you will be sad because you'll need her to survive. But she's very tanky.
All right,
Her
cool.
combination of nimble and the 3-up save makes her a very durable and welcome addition to the Rebel line.
All right, cool. Yeah, that's I pre-ordered both. But I'm looking forward to both. Not to get too off topic, but you just mentioned it that people are using them, and I just wanted what I'm looking forward to when I finally get to put them on the table.
Yeah, both of them are great. It's very satisfying to use lying in wait on turn 1 with Bosk, and then activate him last, and he steps out of cover with 10 aim tokens. Like that's such a great card when you just sit there and you pile them up and pile them up. And I actually lost a game because I played lying in wait on like turn 4 or 5, and I should have used it when he was like 3 aim tokens in, because there was a potential bounty target that was able to escape. So
Oh no.
you don't always want to sit there and hoard them, but man, it's just funny. Like every time your opponent pulls a token, you're like, man, that's an aim token, and then he activates another unit, and that's an aim token. Yeah, that's pretty great. They're both great. I think you're going to see a lot of them on the table, and I'm thrilled that these new units that are coming out they feel like additions to the game. They definitely don't feel like direct replacements for anything.
All right, that's what I was
awesome.
afraid of, was maybe Bosk just replace Boba, or Sabine replaces Chewie, kind of thing. So that's good to hear too.
Yeah, I think it depends. If you're an Imperial player like me that likes to be very pushy and aggressive, Boba is still such a moneymaker, and he does something that none of the other Empire stuff on the table does. He moves at speed 3 to pick up that box or contest that objective. And like you only get that with bikes without all the cool objective grabbing parts. You know, it's like he is so versatile that I think a lot of people are going to gravitate towards Bosk just because you could sit him at range 4 and plink away at stuff, but you're still losing Boba's versatility and his scalpelness, as I know a lot of people like to call him. And Sabine, you know, she's a great combination of Luke and Han without doing those things better than them. Han still does stuff better than Sabine, in my opinion. And Luke, nothing murders a unit like Luke murders. You lose a lot of that action economy with Sabine, and you also don't have push. So she's not a straight up replacement, but at the same time, the two of them in a list together, that's a lot of stuff you can murder.
I also like hearing that. That's also good news for me. All right.
Yeah, both of them. I think the Darksaber people are going to definitely want to try that out for the first time because it's pretty cool to have her and Luke both with like essentially lightsabers mowing down your opponents.
So, LJ, let me ask you this, kind of on a last little question for you. In these two factions that we have now, with all the units that they've announced so far, what unit are you looking forward to getting on the table the most?
Stuff that's announced? Ooh, man, that's
so
tough.
short troopers, dewbacks, tauntauns, veterans, Sabine, Bosk. What's the one unit? I know you've been playing Sabine and Bosk in on TTS, but what's the one unit you're like, man, I can't wait to get this on the table?
I'm super excited for the dewback. I'm a big fan of Relentless or Steady rather, Steady. And there's a couple army lists I've been throwing around that's just like 5 flame troopers and 3 dewbacks.
That sounds so good. Oh my gosh.
Oh God.
and I know we don't know a lot of deets about their flamethrower yet, but I'm super excited for my new flame on list that I'll get to try.
Oh shit, it's worth putting on the table once. I wouldn't even know what to do. This is happening to me. All right.
Yeah.
I will say that like snow troopers are. Luke Cook actually played me with a list of 5 or 6 snow trooper units, and it's ridiculous. It's way better than you think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's decently effective because at least one of them is going to get through. And like, is it the best list ever? I don't know, probably not. But like, I think they just did such a good job with that dewback model. I know everybody's at Hull High on the shores and being able to use the mortar launcher and figuring out fire support and all that, but I definitely like my models to look like awesome models. And when I saw that dewback, I was like, yeah, this thing is money. I can't wait to put this on the table.
Well, and I'll say that between that and the tank, those two models really started to get me excited for where the sculpts and stuff were. Like, I know everybody else was excited about the multiple sculpt options for Sabine and Bosk, but really the tanks and the dewbacks are what got me so excited for the future of this game, because it started to remind me of Warhammer sculpts, right? I'm like, oh my God, this game's going to be incredible. Like, I don't know. I'm just really excited for the sculpts of the new units for sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that really is looking great, and like the power creep, people like to say that like, oh, they're gonna get certain things are gonna get creeped out by like tauntauns or whatever, but it's like, man, actually getting to put these things on the table and saying what their weaknesses and strengths are going to be makes me realize that overall the game still is in a great place. And honestly, these things that are coming out, they're just a distraction for when I get to put droids on the
board. Right? And can you imagine like when they announced the tanks with the embark and disembark, I was just like, oh my God, we're gonna get a droid transporter. Like, that's all I could think about. It's just, I want to get a big ass droid transporter. It's, just that and a ton of droids. And I just go around plopping them all over I can't wait for that.
So what's funny is when I played 40K, I was a Tyranid player, and I
Oh,
had about 30 to 40,000 points of
oh,
Tyranids, and I got to play when they came out with the Tervigon, which was a spawner, a creature
sure is.
essentially, and those, yeah, Evan seems to be familiar with this
Sure
concept.
does. Yeah.
That it was so fun to roll around with those things and spawn gaunts and whatnot. And I just I just can't wait for them to apply something like that to droids eventually. And I'm sure they'll do it right because they really have been doing a lot of things right. But it's going to be super satisfying one day. One day.
It's a, yeah, it's interesting you brought up power creep because, right, it's inevitable in anything that, to get people to want to get the new thing, it has to do something cool. That being said, though, there's like one unit in this game completely so far that's just considered bad, and everything else is considered good, right? Like, besides minus single models for different things, but like airspeeder bad, but that's really it, right? Like, you could put down just about anything else on the table, and I don't feel like it's like a wasted point, right?
Yeah, I agree. I know I'd say probably what the three weakest thing in the game are T-47s, ion refresh weapons,
Yeah.
and I don't know what the third is. Those two are just the glaringly obvious ones in my opinion. There have been so many
Yeah,
things that they've like fixed along the way, and like problem with power creep is that people might use it as an excuse to say like, hey, this is how they sell more models and stuff. But like to give our developers a little more credit, you don't have all your good ideas up front,
Right.
you know? You've spent now, for them, they've probably spent 2 to 3 years now tweaking the
no,
system.
sure.
Like, that's all the back stuff that happened before the game actually came out. They're coming up with great ideas all the time. And with this keyword system and upgrade system that they've created, I think you're going to see a lot of those keywords backwards applying to units that came out in wave one and stuff like that. Like that we saw those smoke grenades. We don't know what they do, but we know they're coming. It's
Yeah,
like,
that'd be
cool.
cool.
Any core set unit can take smoke grenades and make it better because they all have a grenade spot. Or like, did you guys see electro binoculars that can give a unit near you an aim token? Cool. Put it on Veers, and now Veers can give out 3 aim tokens
Yeah.
instead of 2. Like, that you're gonna have practical applications to some of this stuff that's coming out too that people might cry power creep about. So I think they need to keep the game relevant, but B, have set up a system where some of this new stuff is going to work with the old stuff too. And everybody knows that core set troopers and Luke are just as valuable in today's game as they were a year ago.
Yeah, I would agree. Like we talk about this a lot, and because I play a nobody's list, I play a 12 activation Veers list that is still relevant. That can still you can still do very well with if and you kind of coined this term and I always steal it from you, but the muscle memory of just like playing with that list over and over again. If it's a halfway good list, you're going to do fine with it because between muscle memory and then the way the game is structured, pretty much all lists that are decent will do well.
Yeah, I
Uh,
totally agree.
all right, well, thanks, LJ. Thanks for joining us, and
Yeah, man.
appreciate it.
Yeah, happy to come on and say hi as always. I'm really glad that this project is kind of out the door now because I can focus on just improving it, and that's the thing. Like during this late month of March, early month of April, it's like we had Adepticon and this and Vader League stuff, and it's like now I'm kind of cruising because all these projects are just kind of self-sustaining and doing their own thing. So appreciate being able to talk about it and get the word out there. And I haven't seen a lot of brackets turned into that bracket competition yet. So this prize is waiting for you listeners out there, and I hope people take advantage of that. And the last thing I'll plug before I leave is jump on the Discord. We'd love to have you there, listener. I don't know who you are, but you could be a valued member of our team. And I'll tell you why. Everybody liked those LVO order tokens. In fact, just this week, I got another question asking me if LVO order tokens were still available. Well, here's what we're doing, community. Because everybody liked those those tokens so much, we're gonna make Discord tokens, which are gonna be the exact same company in the exact same style. It's just going to have a new back on it to represent the Discord. But because we hit 2,000 members this week, we are going to set up a little shop where here in a moment, I'll be showing you guys the art for what these tokens are going to look like. And if you wanted a set of those LVO tokens, well, you can basically get them. They might not have the LVO 2019 logo on them, but they will be the exact same material. They'll cover every type of possible token you might want in your army, and it's a full set of 20 for only $18 plus shipping. So not too shabby on the wallet.
No, that's really good. And I can tell you, as someone who has a set of those LVO tokens, they're really nice.
Evan, how do you feel about the LV tokens not owning them?
I was extremely jealous, and I feel less of a player without having them. But by golly, I can buy myself satisfaction for how much was it?
For only $18.
Well, geez, that's less than X-Wing dice. I think I'm in.
And this'll stop my friends from shoving their LVO tokens in my face.
The worst part is, the more I play with the guys, I realize everyone has them but me around. I'm like, oh, he's got them too. All right, that's cool. That's sweet.
Yeah, we really wanted to celebrate the fact that the Discord has just hit 2,000 members, and we know those were such a hit item that it's like, we want to do something special for everybody. And so if you're not a member, come on, jump in. I think we're going to set the limit at 200 sets of them. So, supplies will be limited, but we'll see where the demand is. And because we're going to run it through Etsy, it'll calculate shipping and all that for us. So it should be like a relatively smooth process. They're a great website to do stuff like this with. And, I couldn't be more excited to share that aspect with the community because I know people really like those.
Yeah, and so if you're looking for the link to the Discord, we will gladly share it with you. I'm probably going to put it up on the website because a lot of people have been asking about it. And also, if you're in any of the Facebook groups, just pop a question on there and people will send you the link. So it's readily available for everyone.
Cool.
Excellent.
But all right, thanks, LJ.
No problem. Happy to see you guys again.
Yeah, you too, man. Yeah, so that was LJ talking about the Legion Tournament Circuit website and also about how FFG is going to be doing events. So if anybody was wondering or was confused, there's all the information you'll need. You can go to the website, get everything you need there. And it's also not just for people, TOs, tournament organizers, but it's for the people as well to see what's going on and try to get a pulse on the tournament circuit if that's something you're interested in. So the next thing we wanted to just talk about a little bit is Nick and I live streamed a game on Sunday. Just, I got that Jetta board and I love it. Tashi Station, by the way, they're the ones that built it for me. And we decided to play Nick's first game in 4 or 5 months. How was it being back, Nick?
It felt really good. Like it wasn't like I really lost the knowledge I had. I lost a step because I was just rusty and like wasn't making the best plays, but like I was able to play my army without even looking at my cards or my upgrades. I knew what everything did except for the Pathfinders because I had never used them. It was just like, oh yeah, I know how far Rebel troopers can shoot and how quickly they die.
Yeah. Well, those Death Troopers are mean. Oh my god.
Yeah, they are.
But yeah, so yeah, Nick had a pretty good Wonders twin list with Pathfinders, and then I was playing with all the new units coming out. The last time I played, I was playing my 12 activation with Veers, and so I just wanted to play something new. And so I played a Krennic Death Trooper tank, 2 E-Webs, 2 snipers, and 3 DLT stormtroopers. Man, I mean, Nick, you saw like loading the E-Web on a tank and like coming up the field and then be like, oh yeah, there's an E-Web.
Yeah, it removed all of the restrictions that the E-Web has. Like it just like, yeah, because the thing is, the whole thing about the E-Web is it's really powerful, but its movement is super restricted and it can't fire when it moves, and that goes away with the tank. You just deploy it wherever and it is just there behind cover.
Yeah.
That was ridiculous. Fortunately, what I found out is that it still dies pretty easily. Like I
Yeah.
hadn't killed it, but it was probably gonna die by the end of that round. That was the goal I had anyway.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so. I really miss the Royal Guards. So my other list has Royal Guards, which I could guardian some of those hits off of, so I could keep the E-webs alive longer. But then I also think in that situation, I may have been able to hold the E-web in the tank a little bit longer too. I probably popped it too early. I was just so excited, because it's the first time I was running the tank. With that whole, like, I had this plan. I've had this plan since the tanks were announced. I'm like, holy crap, you could put E-webs in these freaking things. And so, like, that's all I've ever wanted to do. And this was my first game with the tank and E-web. So I was just like, I'm doing it. But yeah, it was really cool.
yeah. I found out that the Pathfinders, my I've only played them this once, but my general feeling about them is that they are too expensive for what you get. They feel like not even necessarily a more durable, but they feel like a more powerful rebel trooper unit. But like minimum, I was playing with POW, and minimum they're going to be like 100 points, and that's a lot for what I got out of them. They just felt very squishy. Like part of it was probably my playing. Like I had them, I could have had them in cover better, but they still just like they just didn't feel as powerful as I felt 100 points should feel. Like you have Luke's 190, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's super powerful and he's just one unit. And I feel like even though it's half the points, 100 points, but it should feel like half of a Luke, and it didn't feel like half of a Luke.
Yeah, and I would say for those of you wondering, I don't think Nick misplayed them and he didn't put them into, like, most people in the beginning when Pathfinders first came out would have like bounced them right into the middle there to try to hold that objective or put them somewhere else. Like, I don't feel like you put them especially in danger. I just think I got up there quick and just started lighting them up, and it
You
just
got up there faster than I thought you could. The same
so
with my fleet troopers was that I was trying to save them for you to get in place, but you got right up in my face really quickly with that tank and kind of melted them.
Yeah, so a little combo that I did was I had pulled the tank up to drop the E-web, and then I had my death troopers pop into the tank, move the tank up, and then disembark the death troopers, and then started shooting at stuff too. So
Mhm.
that's a really interesting move as well that I kind of thought of in while we were playing. I was like, oh man, I could just pop these boys in here, keep them safe a little bit, because you could shoot at the tank, and no matter how many wounds the tank takes, it's only going to take one off the death troopers. And so I was just like, man, I could pop these guys in the tank, move them up a little bit more, and then just create some problems.
Mhm.
So that, yeah, it's really interesting. But I think you did all right. I think, yeah, you just gotta get some more games under your belt and like figure out some of these newer units.
Yeah, and I knew a lot of the right things to do. I just didn't do them because I'm rusty, and that's
Yep.
generally what happens when I don't play a game for a while. Is I start doubting myself and I end up making the wrong move, even though I know what the right move was. Because like going into round two, he had played what is the name of that command card?
Annihilation looms.
Yeah, the one that puts the suppression everywhere.
Yeah.
And the right move for me, I put in standing orders because I really didn't know how best to take advantage of the other command cards I had. And my one order token should have gone on Leia to remove that suppression from everybody. And instead I put it on um my fleet troopers because I wanted to save them towards the end for you to move your units up.
Yeah.
Um so that I could just light them up. But you were able to move them up and shoot, which is what I wasn't expecting. And I should have put it on Leia. And realistically, I should have played her 3-pip so that I could then activate her, remove the suppression from everybody, and then activate another unit, most likely my fleet troopers.
Yeah. And I'll say, back to Nick's point, like this, I think goes for everybody and newer players out there. If you are thinking about becoming competitive, it's muscle memory. Like you got to play the same list. Don't change it up. Don't doubt yourself, like Nick said, right? Like just play whatever the plan is and see it through. And then just get a bunch of reps under your belt. And then that's how you're going to get ready to play competitively.
Yeah, and it's not just muscle memory. It's you have to understand what your guys are capable of and what the opposing units are capable of, so that in a given situation you know what the best play is.
Yep. But hopefully we'll have some more streams in the future for you guys to check out, whether it's Nick and Evan or me and Evan or me and Nick, or maybe some special guests that I can't think of right now. But I want to do some more of those live streams where you guys can kind of talk to us while we're streaming and watch us play. So
Yeah, man, sounds good.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. Because like when you went and let out the dog, I was talking to the audience like, this is what my thoughts were. Because like one thing I did right from the get-go was I split up my forces, which is not a good idea. But the idea was to converge in the middle, which is exactly what was happening. And it was working exactly the way I wanted it to. But the way I play, battle meditation on Luke is what I need. Because I like to split up my forces and then converge them. And battle meditation just fills in a lot of gaps. Like I wanted to activate my Pathfinders, or there was another set of troopers way off in the distance, and battle meditation takes care of that.
Yeah, but that's the stuff you learn, like getting some reps under, and now you know for the next game. And
yeah, remember why I always took that thing, because that card is good.
It is. So Evan, any thoughts, my friend?
No, man. I logged in, and so here's my experience with the stream. I was at home. I was getting really frustrated when I was setting up a rack system, and I log in the stream, and then I see you put the sniper out. You go, I think I lent this to Evan. He hasn't returned it yet, so I got to use the stand-in. And I'm like, oh, sweet. So then I log out of the stream and go back to building my thing. I was just mad because the rack system was really driving me nuts. And so I went back and watched some of it. No, that map looks awesome, man. That terrain looks super cool.
I wasn't doing that disparagingly. I was just talking out loud. I'm like, I don't know where that sniper is. I'm like,
I was the one doing
the worst
it.
part is I literally have that the things I owe you, like the 2 boxes. They were in my car today and said we decided to do remotely. So I was on top of it.
But all right. Well, hey, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Once again, if you have any questions or things you want us to talk about on air, send me an email. I say me because I have access to the email, but it's really us. The Fifth Trooper Podcast at gmail.com. Just write in there that it's a question for on air, and we will absolutely say your name and read the question or comment or whatever you have. As long as it's PG, we will totally talk about it on air. So write us, go check out the Northeast Open, go check out the giveaway, and get some games of Legion in, everybody. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you next week.
See you later. Stay rad.
Take it easy, everyone.
Join us next week for another edition of the Fifth Trooper Podcast.
This has been a Fifth Trooper production.